Hey, I'm Carmel Holt, and this is Sheroes Radio. This hour was created to turn up the volume of women's voices in song and conversation across genres and generations. On Sheroes, we feature the trailblazers and the new visionaries. And now, we bring you our first ever special event brought to you by 4AD and Beggars Group. Welcome to Big Thief, live from Levon Helm Studios in Woodstock. An intimate performance and conversation. In this hour, we'll take you on a sonic journey with Big Thief, captured in the hallowed space of Levon Helm's barn in the woods of Woodstock. We'll enjoy live performances of 4 songs from their 5th album, Dragon, New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You, and deep conversation recorded as we sat in a circle by the hearth of Levon's giant stone fireplace. Led by guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter Adrienne Lanker, along with her bandmates guitarist Buck Meek, drummer James Kravchenia, and bassist Max Oliarchik, Big Thief emerged in 2016 with their debut masterpiece. Their second studio album, Capacity, followed in 2017, and in 2019 the band signed to 4AD and released 2 studio albums that same year, UFOF and Two Hands. Both albums received critical acclaim, garnering 3 Grammy nominations between them. Dragon, New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You is easily their most ambitious work thus far and is already the stuff of mythical legend. A double album recorded during the pandemic in 2020 over 5 months in 4 separate locations: the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York, California's Topanga Canyon, the Colorado Rockies, and the desert of Arizona. Our journey begins with a song originally recorded in the Arizona sessions. This is Big Thief, live from Levon Helm Studios with Red Moon on Sheroes Radio.
Talking with
Big Thief live at Levon Helm Studios in Woodstock. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So great to have you on the show.
Thanks.
We're here to celebrate Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You, which is a mouthful. Thanks for that. Who wants to start telling the story of this album?
Well, oftentimes I feel like it's not pinpointable where an album begins because songs just gather, and then at a certain point we look around and go, whoa, there's a lot here. We should probably archive these before it gets too overwhelming. But with this one, it actually all began with the song Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You. I was in like a green room and I had just finished that song and I was showing the voice memo of it to James. And I was like, yeah, this song is called Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You. And he's like, that's a cool name. And then right there, we kind of ran it by Buck and Max that would be the name of our next record. So we had the title long before we had the record. And that was kind of the birth.
Where in the timeline of Big Thief are we?
2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I understand that actually the idea to record the album the way that you guys did in 4 distinct segments was James's idea,
yep.
Right?
Actually, there was a sentiment after we redid the song Not for Two Hands at a different studio. And we were like, damn, that was nice to just like pop into a different place, but like finish a record. And there was kind of this very loose discussion of like, God, it'd be nice to like record it a couple different places just because like it felt like a reset. It didn't feel like, oh, we're going back to the same studio. It was like, oh, wow, new energy, like new room. Then it sort of gelled into a more specific concept of like doing the different songs at different places and having different engineers at each different place. And it was like really ambitious at first, pre-COVID. And we were just like, we'll do one in a castle and we'll do one session that's like completely outside. We'll just like rent an RV and just drive around and like record in caves. And then like once COVID hit, it got a little more like focused, which is probably a good thing for the record. But yeah.
We found a cave in, I believe, North Carolina where someone has installed a pipe organ deep in the cave, but the keys trigger hammers that strike the stalactites or stalagmites.
No way.
As the pipes, and it just fills this cave with sound. And I was dead set on recording in that cave.
Well, you got icicles in.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
Everything's simplified a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Adrienne, I also understand that you were going through kind of a hard time as you were writing these songs. I was hoping that you could share a little bit with us.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose it's not too extraordinary that I was going through a hard time, as I think that the great pause brought about so much for everyone. And yeah, and from some people I've heard that there were like positive things that came out of it, but for a lot of people there were devastating outcomes. And in my own world, I was going through sort of a breakdown of my like psyche and internal just like constructs and old patterning and things that I hadn't really addressed because of all the years of being on tour. So I did have like a physical breakdown, but also, I was going through a breakup and suddenly not being busy and being stuck in one place. There was a lot of processing and grieving and stuff that I hadn't done, but I was very grateful that once again, songs were the balm for me. I mean, I think of being able to write as such a gift, and I have fear of writer's block and stuff, but I also think of the possibility that what if that was no longer coming through me? So it still was like a surprise to be able to like channel that many songs and feel that much energy coming through and be able to like have enough clarity to shape all those different forms. And it felt just like being back in my bedroom at 11 years old with my guitar and feeling all of this stuff and not knowing what to do with it, and then just like being so grateful that I have this friend with me, which is this guitar, which is like a portal. And it really was. I wonder too if we don't pick up on each other too as well. Like I wasn't sure at certain points how much of it was my stuff and how much I was just sort of picking up. I think we're connected. I feel like a lot of the songs are, I don't know, some of them feel very much like my story, and I can pinpoint specific things I'm going through, and then some of them feel beyond me and feel like I don't understand them when I write them. It's only afterwards that I start to gather the meanings.
We're here with Big Thief at Levon Helm Studios in Woodstock. My name is Carmel Holt, and this is Sheroes Radio. I think we should get to a song, and I was thinking the title track, since you mentioned that this was sort of where all of this began. Does this fit that category of something that was personal to you, or was it in the other realm?
This one felt like it extended into both infinities.
It's a little bit magic, like a river of morning geese. In the New Orleans mountain, where the stone face forms and speaks. I believe in you, even when you need to. Recoil when the topsoil is kicking up into the storm, and the dust goes dancing, then a billion planets are born. I believe in you, even when you need to. Recall, just like that.
We actually recorded that song, Dragon Noir Mountain, at all 4 sessions, at all 4 studios throughout the process of recording Dragon Noir Mountain. And the version that we played today, that louder version, we recorded in Topanga Canyon with our friend Sean Everett. And it didn't make the cut, but it was one of my favorite moments in the recording process because James brought in this plugin called the Dehumanizer, which is, it's this, I think, like film scoring program that modulates the human voice into like a beast sound. And so we created this dragon creature, and then we all took a take with the microphone screaming over the song in like this dragon voice, which it like responds to like your dynamics. You have to actually like embody the dragon a bit, but then it sounds also like ridiculous.
You can really feel it also, like you can feel yourself as a dragon. All your friends are looking at you and you're like
we each took a turn, and we had recorded the track, like we played it today, and then we turned it up super loud in the studio and put the dragon through the mains, through these really big speakers, and it like rumbled the room. It was super fun.
Also, feels like every time we play a song, it's a different version.
Yeah.
Like there's like these imprints or like stamps of like the sort of general sonic qualities of each, but I feel like every time we play it, it is new. It's like easy to forget that it's like, it really is like a living thing.
Amen.
And it's always changing. And tonight when we played like this, I was not feeling so good. Like I wasn't feeling badass. It was way more fierce than what I was feeling inside. And to bring the energy of it here today, I felt a little like awkward with it and like clumsy and kind of like new and strange. Like it just was like, felt kind of tense. That's how it felt to me tonight.
And how did it feel to the rest of you?
It felt good to me. I did feel like I was like getting back on some sort of like animal that I wasn't quite comfortable, which is kind of, there's like a certain sound to that of like when you're like trying to get back in like outside performing mode, like really like pushing energy out and not just like bouncing it around between the 4 of us. Whereas like halfway through tour, it feels easy, you know?
From where I was sitting, it felt free. It's also so subjective. Yeah. Everything is so subjective.
But could you tell that I felt weird?
Yeah, but it also sounded beautiful and like badass from where I was standing. So I don't know. I recognize that you're having a hard time, but I also recognize that that's subjective too. And like that's one of the special things about music for me is that it's like a gift that then is then experienced subjectively with every listener.
To me, it felt good, but also not good, and I feel like that is where it's at. It is like this creature that can just shift, and you shift with it. And I feel like the most important thing is listening and like accepting changes while you're doing it. You know.
So true. Yeah. I wanted to know more about the 4 settings that you guys chose for recording this record. Having been blessed to know you guys since Masterpiece, I know that you're very sensitive to your surroundings and you love being around nature. And I think it was either Masterpiece or Capacity, or maybe both, that you guys were like recording a lot of it in your swimsuits, and sounds like that happened again here, which is so awesome. And you just bring that kind of essence of play into your music.
We put some clothes on for this interview.
Yes, thank you.
Like, courtesy.
So talk to us a little bit about the 4 locations that you guys ended up with.
Telluride, Colorado was sort of the castle feeling. It was grandiose and sweeping and very high in elevation. So it kind of felt like we were on top of the earth and in the clouds. And there were all these aspen trees, and it was like cold and snowy.
The oxygen too.
Yeah, the oxygen was thinner. And then Topanga Canyon, California was sort of just on the outskirts of Los Angeles, and it was kind of a twisty little like village feeling, but also with the LA vibe of sleek and warm. And we recorded in a studio that was very sort of a very controlled environment.
Our friend Jonathan Wilson's 5-star studios there in Topanga.
Yeah, just a beautiful studio with sort of no limitations, like sonically speaking. And then we recorded in Tucson, Arizona, with Scott McMicken.
Of Dr. Dog, yeah.
Yeah. And that was just at his house in this little room. And Matt Davidson joined us for that one, of the band Twain. He's one of our favorite current songwriters. It was like we were in the desert and there was a train that would go by like every hour. And
for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. And we recorded all analog for that one, all to 8-track tape machine. And then lastly, upstate New York, not far from here, with Sam Owens at Flying Cloud Studios.
Which was actually the first session.
And that one kind of felt like home, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're with our friend who we all known for a while, carpet floor, laying down, listening to records, jumping, getting in the creek. I wouldn't say jumping because it wasn't that deep, but yeah.
Really cold water. And every time we need to reset, we're just like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And it's like so cold.
Oh, yeah.
And we would just reset, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like
in between takes, yeah.
I will say like the want for like, you know, like the doing takes in the swimsuit and the like being close to outside. I think we kind of seek that because it is really hard to record. It like feels like the opposite of vacation. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like there's this like really intense focus.
It's so vulnerable.
Yeah. And there's like just constant like, you're running up against your ego and you're running up against your friends' egos, and then you're trying to get through it together, and then you like have these amazing breakthroughs. Like I think for us it's mostly just like not being in a city with like commute and like I gotta meet up with a friend later, like at least just like giving ourselves that focus makes us be able to like have the amazing moments be like the counterbalance to the like, wow, this is hard. Why doesn't it sound good?
And to be able to step out of that that intensity into like to silence and fresh air, and to be able to, for the natural world to like heal those moments of tension and release, to kind of bring you back to a center.
Show you how ridiculous your thoughts are.
Put
sometimes.
it all into context.
I think what sort of bands us together the most is that we all are going for the same thing, even though we can't really name what it is, but we know when we find it. We don't really understand even what's happening when we're playing music, because it's not just about playing the songs. It's not just like, all right, we know, we rehearse the chords. What's actually happening is something that can't even be described with words.
I've never ever seen a band that had a woman in the front and 3 men behind her that literally got down on the ground during a live performance while she was taking a solo. That moment is just burned into my memory. Mm-hmm. And I would love to know what that feels like to you, Adrienne.
I didn't even realize that happened.
Yeah.
But truthfully, I think we have a lot of reverence for each other as human beings. And as someone who identifies as a woman and has been in music since I was 6 years old, I mean, it definitely has been a man's and like a white man's game. And it has been interesting to see my own veils lifted. Like you can be in the matrix and not realize it, and then certain levels of it become clearer and clearer, and you can start to observe what's actually happening. And, you know, it's only in retrospect that I remember that, okay, I was one of 3 women in the guitar department at Berklee when I was going, which it's like, wow. You know, and I remember being there and being in music school, and everyone would always ask, you're a vocalist, right? Like
out of like 3,000 men guitar players.
Yeah, out of like as so many guitar players, you know, it's only in retrospect that I'm like, whoa, it wasn't then when I was 18 years old. I don't remember thinking, what's going on here? I was just kind of like in it. So, but I do realize that I'm a woman and I'm in a band, and that the 3 people around me identify as men. And I honestly forget with this crew, because I've said this before, but I feel this strongly, that the 3 of them have mothered me so much. Truly, like, and I feel like the gender roles in this group have been very, very bent and blurred and messed with, both intentionally and also just, I think, by nature of them being very special humans who are particularly conscientious. I've been listening a lot lately to Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Healing the feminine is something that's happening in the world and needs to happen because of oppression. It's been so out of whack. I don't think that there can be healthy masculinity if femininity is like squelched. Both things become out of balance, and both sides and both parts, and less focusing on gender, more focusing just on these, like the feminine and the masculine. And I feel like within our band, a lot of the practices that Clarissa Estes is like talking about in terms of just like listening to the intuition and the intuitive nature, and also like the part of the wild woman that needs to howl and spit and have dirt in the fingernails. I feel like this is something I feel full freedom to do with these three humans, and that they have full freedom to cry in my arms and to be soft, and to change the idea that masculinity is toughness and strength and repressing emotion, and femininity is softness and sweetness and pleasantness. That like femininity is strong and intense, and masculinity is soft and receptivity and projection, like the moon that receives the light of the sun and reflects it to us, and then the sun that is this like projector sphere. That like I have a lot of projector energy when I'm writing songs or when I'm like leading something. I feel like I'm like, here I have this shining idea, this like beam that I need, and I feel like sometimes, you know, like Max or James or Buck, they can have that as well, but then they also have this very soft receptive energy as well. That's like, here's this like gentle womb space and I have felt nurtured as a mother would nurture, or as a father would nurture, by all of them. And I feel like I have also been both to them. And then everything dissolves and you forget all of this dialogue and you forget all of these thoughts, and suddenly you're just boiled down to your core essence at a certain point when there's enough trust and respect for each other.
I remember feeling that too on tour at a certain point. When we started being a band, it was clear to me, there's three guys in the band, there's one gal, and it's like, you're a woman, and he's a man, I'm a man. And I remember just like being like in awe after like a year or two, basically like 1,000 days in the car, and we got like real close. I totally forgot James is a man, you know, or Adrienne's a woman, or Buck's like, it was like totally in the background. Like the more the togetherness got stronger, the burden around like the concept of gender like was just like faded out.
And it feels important also, I just want to say that I think this is an interesting and touchy subject in a sense, as everything is touchy now, out of necessity, because people are waking up to the sensitivity that is needed to face like our history and why things are the way they are. So I think that sensitivity is important. But I just want to make the distinction. I don't think that gender identities are unimportant. I think that recognizing and acknowledging the different types and levels of privilege that come with each human, I think that looking into those things and investigating those things and being aware of those things and our different experiences as people as a result, there has been acknowledgement that I'm a woman. Yeah. Or that I have had the experience of being a woman in the world, and that I don't have the same advantages as them when, you know, like talking to,
that's felt, yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel.
And I think that acknowledgement of the different life experiences is really important. I just feel, and I wish this for the whole universe eventually, that I just feel grateful that we have faced and then sort of transcended together, just within our sphere, as like when we're together. Yeah. When it's the four of us, not when we're in front of a bunch of people, not when we're being interviewed, not when we're like on a camera or anything, but when we're just together, it really feels like I don't remember what we are.
Yeah, I feel like it's been interesting watching, especially as we were like first starting and, you know, you're not known and like it's like very felt by like sound people, and the way Adrienne is like treated in a club, it's like, oh, that's like the chick singer. Like that was like the vibe for like the first, that was like the baseline vibe kind of, you know?
And we felt that.
And yeah, and you kind of feel you're just like, what in the Sam hell? Which is why I think we like keep a low profile. I mean, we like play a lot of shows, but like when we're recording, it's like extremely private. And you know, there's like something to getting lost in us and like trying to find a space and like make a space that's safe enough that we don't have to like have our guards up against that kind of stuff. And it's like way harder to do on tour and on the road. And like we do our best to sort of like build a really awesome like family around us. But when I think of like your identity, I honestly, I mostly think of like Adrienne's the leader. Like Adrienne is like the heartbeat almost, you know. There's like this immense amount of energy on stage or in the bringing of songs that's like filtering out into like I feel like a limb in like the best way, you know?
I definitely feel that, you know, when we're all kneeling down, I am like aware of the fact that we're like elevating a woman, and that feels like really big to me and important, kind of like glorifying. But also I just feel like mostly you are like Adrienne and you are Buck and you are James.
That stuff is the stuff that was put on us from the time that we were born and from long before. And when that fades away, we are even beyond our names. Yeah. I mean, but we're just swimming in this soup of needing to navigate all of these labels and all these constructs and all these concepts and all these things that are just like, we're just in a soup of it all the time. And when we can boil that all down and when it really, really disappears, it's like such a pure connection. And I think that's why music's so powerful too. Yeah. Because when we're sharing that with an audience, suddenly no one has a name. Almost no one even has a body in a way. Like we all just like are meeting in this point of these waves of the music, of our experiences, of our hearts opening, of pure exchange. I also wanted to say that I've run into the feeling of defensiveness that I've developed over the years of being mistreated by men in many ways. I worked in the restaurant industry for 10 years before we went tour full time, from 14 to 24. So countless forms of like harassment and mistreatment. And I, in entering into this group dynamic, like have had to find myself again and break down those defenses and those walls and not just go, well, you're just inserting that idea because you're like mansplaining, or you're just like using your power when you've been hurt, or, you know, when you've been treated unfairly in any way. And for me, it's a small thing probably compared to a person of color or a woman of color. My small sliver of whatever experience I've had with being treated unfairly, I developed this like feeling at first. I had it when we first became a band that was like defensive, and I felt like people are opposing me and they're out to get me, and they're gonna manipulate me.
Within the band, you mean?
Within the band, yeah. And like it took a while for me to like start to really trust, but I wanted to, is the thing, because it feels like when you're having to act from that place, it's like I just felt so far from who I actually am, which is this like this child that's full of curiosity and wants to listen and wants to learn from these people around me and not be afraid of these men around me, but to actually be receptive to the energies as if I can like fully trust. And so I feel like that's an important element of it too, is like they've had a lot to show me and teach me. And if I came from a place of just general anger or fear of men, which like, you know, I could have kept that, you know, up, given certain experiences that I won't go into, but in childhood, and like they've really helped me heal so much. But I wasn't even able to really listen like at first, or to really, really, really trust that like, no, this person isn't like showing me something that I should listen to because they are a man. This person is offering to share something that I can listen to and grow from because we are friends and because we are people and because we are in exchange and in conversation with each other. And do I want to be in this? And that process of opening and then finding that it's safe, and then a little more and it's safe and a little more, and actually we're all taking care of each other, has helped heal that wounded part of me so much.
Oh, wow. On both probably a creative level and also just a human level.
Yeah.
In conversation.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it makes sense that this new album, Dragon, New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You, sounds the way that it does, right? Like it's the biggest example of everything that you guys are talking about that you've done so far. Am I on to something? Am
Definitely.
I right?
Yeah.
It shows way more than we could ever say with words.
Yeah. It definitely feels like the most revealing thing we've made, the most honest thing we've made.
It's the archiving of us learning.
Name on the line, last request. Pull the car over to find some rest. Saying I love you. Need a lie here, need to leave. Living in the dead of make-believe. Saying I owe you. Crooked as a crow, gnawing on dawn. Shadow from the grass and the dirt on the lawn. Why do I string you along? My certainty's wide, weaving. For you I am a child, believing. You lay beside me, sleeping on a plane in the future. Sit on the phone, watch TV, romance, action, mystery. I wanted to show you. Sine wave is a particle ride. Bring your light up and in on the tide. Maybe I love you. Maybe I love you as a river so high. Maybe I love you as a river so low. I love you, still don't know. My certainty's wide, weaving. For you I am a child, believing. You lay beside me, sleeping on a plane in the future. My certainty's wide, weaving. For you I am a child, believing. You lay beside me, sleeping on a plane in the future.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how you gathered all, by the way, also it should be mentioned, there was 45 songs that you whittled down to 20, how you sculpted all of this beautiful music that you made in these 4 places into what we hear.
I guess one important part is we left all of that to the very end. Like we didn't do any sequencing or like sculpting of the record while we were making it. We just let ourselves make it and record the songs we were trying to record at each session, and new ones if they popped up, or ones we wanted to redo, and not worry like, oh, does this make sense? It was like the whole point was like not think about the final product. It was strange. We sent all the 45 songs to our friends and had them make sequences just to try and get it out of our own heads. And it was actually honestly a really good exercise in compromise and listening on another level, because at a certain point it's like, oh yeah, we like all these ones, oh, these are good. But then like once you start getting to the fringes, there's songs where you're like, I can't believe this song is not going to be on the album. Like, this is actually my favorite song. I think this is like this is us. And then it's like, no, but this, and then someone feels that exact same strength and vehemence and like deep conviction about something that you're like, it's good, but I could take it or leave, so it's like, it took a lot of refreshing our perspectives and listening and being like, and just like letting go of something. You're like, I thought that was going to be on the record, but it's not,
We just talked it through song by song.
It's kind of a crazy feeling that that like something's going to be like in the drawer now that made you cry and your like sister cry, or you know what I mean? Like, it feels crazy. So, I mean, it was hard, but also I feel like as a band, if we would just form this year, it would be way harder.
And I think sculpturally, it's texturally sculptural. Like, I think the texture is the thing about it that makes it feel like sticking all this material together in like a non-linear way, just like by feeling, just like shaping it. And like each session had its own world. It's almost like we created 4 parts as if we were to take 4 totally different materials. Like one is like make some kind of clay substance. Okay, and then one is like, it has to be like brittle, and it's like going to be made out of little twigs.
Ooh, can you tell us more about which one was which?
Oh, I don't actually know.
Okay.
I mean, because I haven't actually thought about this before, but yeah, and then one could be like rocks.
Yeah.
Or it has to like clunk together, and it has to have these like round.
And one's like glitter.
And one's like glitter, like you barely hear it. And it's just dust. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, when we're doing each one, like when we're in the glitter one, we're only going to think about glitter. We're just going to focus on this as if it's the only one. And so it's almost like at each session we forget about the other pieces. And that was on purpose. That was part of the concept and the way that we wanted to work. So then by the time we got to the end, we had all of these 4 things. And then we kind of like cut and divided those all up into a bunch of pieces, and then shook them up in like a bowl, and then we're like, all right, cool, now we're gonna just like by feel, like what should go here, what should go here, what should go here, what should go here. And like the textures of all of them just like formed a shape that we never would have been able to form had we done it all in one space with one sound and one feel,
It's kind of like film, and the beautiful thing with film is that you just like film things and you get to look at it afterwards and like edit it later,
Right.
So it felt like that to me.
So the experiment worked.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I think it worked.
I like it.
It definitely happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened.
It happened, yeah.
It's probably hard to answer this question, but do you have a favorite out of the 4?
Like sessions?
Yeah.
I could no sooner choose a favorite star in the heavens.
Yes, okay, that's fair enough. Well, why don't we go out with a song, and you guys have Simulation Swarm on your set list today. Can you talk to us a little bit about this song, which is, I have to say, one of my very, very favorites?
Empty horses gallop through the violet door, follow red crooked courses, shadows on the moonlit floor. Oh, my stars, winged creatures, gathering in silken height like the last human teachers. Once again we must bleed new, even as the hours shake, crystal blood like a dream true, a ripple in the wound and wake. You believe, I believe too, that you are the river of light, who I love, that I sing to, in the belly of the empty night.
Beautiful.
I don't know what it's about. No, I think it's like a really fun one to sing because I think it's about so many things, and there's layers of it that are really personal to me, and then there's layers of it that are more abstract, and there's also like symbolism in it that I don't understand yet, but that feel like maybe they're of dreams, of my own dream world. But then there's like specificities that I'm not sure why they're there, like the 31st floor of the simulation swarm. It was written when the pandemic started, and there was all these, just the like concept of needing to like fill out forms in a hospital when you're like bleeding. And there's like these fluorescent lights flickering and no one's going, help that person, like get them in here right now. They're like, well, what's your insurance? And it's just kind of like the metropolis and like the like Wall Street, like just the feeling of the skyscrapers and the flicker of the fluorescent lights and this matrix overlay of like, that's like on top of everything that's actually happening and actually important. But then there's like calling out to my long lost brother, and among many other things, childhood stories and dreams.
It feels like this with a lot of your super word flowy songs, where it's like they have their own internal logic that makes sense because it's like washing over you. It's almost like you're not meant to like catch it all the first time. And the words like have meaning, and then they also like just the sound of them together. Yeah. Simulation Storm is one of those kinds of ones, I think.
But there's so much emotional signal.
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah.
body tells you what it means.
I like going into abstractions and like then bringing something like grounded into it. That's just like, but I want to touch like we never could before. I mean, that's like a key part of it to me too, is just like I was like separated from someone that I really loved like through the pandemic, and then the screen was the only way and words were the only medium, the only thing that we could connect with, but everything was getting lost in them. And so it's like what I wouldn't do to just like communicate with all the other, I haven't appreciated all the other ways of communicating, but brings it down into a simple thing of like I want to touch. Like that's like this little like anchor in the song, and then it's almost like from that point all these other things can unfurl and not need to make sense. How do you want to start it?
It was really fun to, and I know songwriters sometimes hate this, but do some detective work on some of the themes that recur lyrically throughout the album. There are threads throughout even the word thread shows up a lot. Owls, blood, bleeding, death, touching.
Yeah,
beds.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I actually love that.
Okay, good.
I love when people do that detective work and reveal to me like the connections. Somebody said to us recently that the beginning of the album in the song Change, it's "Would you live forever and never die?"
Yes.
And the end of the album, the song Blue Lightning, is "I want to live forever till I die."
That's right.
Which we didn't consciously do that, but it's like the bookends of, and it's like a twist on that concept. But I feel like I'm pretty devoted to the same themes, and they're simple but extraordinarily complicated, and I don't understand any of them. You know, longing and life and death and love and joy and sorrow and hunger and shame and fear and pain, and like there's just like the most basic yet the most mysterious and bewildering of concepts that I feel like I'll be probably writing about till I die, and have been writing about since I was little. I mean, even like my first song that I ever wrote was just about the same stuff, you know?
You said that you remembered that song, and I never got to ask you. Can you share a little bit with us?
Yeah. Well, it's just called So Little Life.
Okay.
That's really deep.
That is deep for, you were like 8 or something?
Well, I was 10.
Okay, you're 10.
But the one I remember was when I was 10. I was making stuff up when I was 8, but it's like leaves are blowing, summer's fading. I'm not even hesitating. Hesitating. It says it again. And then it's like so little life to live, so many words to say.
Can you sing it?
Oh my God. It's like leaves are blowing, summer's fading. I'm not even hesitating. So little life to live, so many words to say. When I stop and try to say them, everything fades away. When I drift out of this dream world, it's usually just in time to realize everything will be fine. I wanted the time to move. I wanted the time to think. My heart is trapped in time and it won't be released. I wanted the time to feel. I wanted the time to breathe. Oh wait, now it's like my heart is trapped in time and it won't be released. So little life to live, so many words to say. When I stop and try to say them, everything fades away. When I drift out of this dream world, it's usually just in time to realize everything will be fine. Yeah. Kind of the same stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, what is this life?
Same person.
What is time? I feel a lot.
Yeah.
Big Thief, thank you so much for being with us today on Sheroes Radio, live from Levon Helm Studios in Woodstock.
Thanks
Max, Adrienne, Buck, and James.
Thank you, Carmel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carmel.